Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14, but we're not at PAC 14. We're doing everything mobile again this week, and we've got an important guest, someone really important in our community who's going through a lot right now, Dr. Ray Hoy from Wor-Wic Community College. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Greg. Great to see you, even if it is through Zoom.
Even if it is through Zoom. Most people prefer to see me this way, I understand.
Not in my case, but...
Anyway, lots of questions going on. I get lots of feedback from parents. They want to know what to do with their high school seniors. They want to know the status of school next year. You're in a unique situation with the community college here in Salisbury. You're planning some summer classes. You're planning a fall program. So tell me what's going on at Wor-Wic with this pandemic situation.
Well, we're really no different from anyone else. Everybody is dealing with a challenge that we've never faced before. And we're just trying to work our way through it. We've transitioned from face-to-face courses to online instruction. We did it in a week. Is it perfect? No, but students are giving us a pass because we had to make this incredible transition. And honestly, I'm so impressed with the tremendous work that our faculty have done in making that transition, but also our staff, because we're also providing all of our services online. So it's incredible to move everyone off campus, everybody's telecommuting, but they're dealing with the students where they are. And that's the incredible part of this whole thing. But going forward, got a lot of challenges. In fact, I've been working with my staff. We have 4 different scenarios that we've worked up for the fall because we're not sure what's going to happen. These are very uncertain times. And so we're trying to decide, okay, if this, then that, if this, then that. 4 different scenarios to see where we're going to move forward and how we're going to move forward to continue to support our community.
So classes are continuing. There have been some issues in the public schools, in the high schools at least, with some connectivity issues. Not all the students are able to get online. Are you finding the same problem?
Sure, their students are our students. If you think about that, but in addition, we have 600 dual enrollment students, high school students taking college courses. So we're working with that same student clientele. Somewhere between 15 and 20% of our students either don't have the appropriate technology or don't have reliable internet access, high-speed access to deal with some of the educational resources that we have that we're trying to help them through their learning experiences with. So we've had to open up a hotspot on campus where we can have students come to campus, sit in the parking lot, help support them, as well as there are a number of other hotspots around the communities that people are going to.
One of the things Wor-Wic's known for is how your staff works so closely with students. So it's a very personal experience. How are you able to offer that remotely?
Well, our faculty are actually reaching out to students, and I've read some things online, some comments that our students have made. I was looking at Facebook the other day, the Wor-Wic Facebook page, and it was about a commercial and talking about how Wor-Wic faculty, as you said, reach out to people. It's that type of touch. And one of the students wrote back, and it's been happening through this experience. My teachers have called. They're wanting to know how I am, if it's working out for me, and those sorts of things. So that's how it's being done. It's our faculty and also our staff. Our student support services staff have been making phone calls to students, emailing, texting, and just to make sure that students are doing well.
So you're going to continue on with summer programs. Those will be done remotely as well?
They are. Summer 1 for sure. Summer 2, yeah, we made that decision as well to go online. We're hopeful, and that's the thing I think everybody is, we're hopeful. We're trying to make decisions based on the best information that we have at any given date, and we set a drop dead date for a change to transition to Plan 2 or Plan 3. So we're looking at the possibility of some face-to-face. And if we can do that, that's great. But if not, we're trying to make online available for all of our students so they can complete.
Is there a possible scenario where you would open classes in the fall and practice social distancing?
Yeah, there is, and we're planning for that as well. What we've done is an analysis of every classroom on campus, labs and classes, to determine how we can maintain physical distancing, 6 feet apart, front, back, left, right. and what that would do to class size and how we could possibly deliver instruction in that fashion. So if you think about it, typical classrooms are fairly close seating. In fact, in recent years, we've moved from less lecture and more student engaged learning, active learning practices. So we're trying to get the students closer together and to work with one another. That's not ideal under these circumstances when we're trying to have physical distancing between students. So we've gone through an analysis and looked at our classroom seating capacity, and it's scary in many ways because we just don't have the space in the classrooms to deal with the hopeful number of students who intend to come. So one of the options would be move people around to different classrooms, but we don't have that many large classrooms. I'll give you one example. It actually blew my mind. We have a 64-seat classroom, but it's fixed seating. And in that classroom, we can only get 12 students.
Wow.
With the 6 foot by 6 foot spacing. So we were thinking about that room initially and saying, okay, we can move more classes in here, we'll have more space, and we don't. So what we're thinking about is, let's say you have a Monday, Wednesday class. On Monday, half the class comes. On Wednesday, that half of the class watches online synchronously. And then on Wednesday, the other half of the class shows up. And they have to alternate. And that is a way that we can have some face-to-face and a hybrid experience for those students. Certainly, we'll be continuing to teach online. And with clinicals, we're working with the hospitals and physicians' offices, physical therapy offices, occupational therapy, all those different areas. The only way to do that instruction is there. We've got a lot of simulation technology, but again, you've got to be someplace to be able to do that in most cases. So we've got to be able to work that out. And we also have to keep planning and figuring out how we're going to do things differently.
We often talk about Wor-Wic as an option to a bigger college or university. And I just think if I was a graduating senior or a parent, do I want to send my kid to a dormitory environment at a university this fall?
Greg, there's a lot of people asking that question. I get publications on a daily basis, Inside Higher Education, the Chronicle of Higher Education, articles daily are coming out about that, but it's also in the mainstream where parents and high school seniors are trying to make that determination in these very uncertain times. And we're talking about not just uncertainty from the pandemic, but also the economic uncertainty. What are we going to do? How are we going to make this college choice, this decision in terms of what we're going to do? And honestly, one of the big questions is, if the instruction is going to be online, should I be paying the 4-year residential tuition rate versus taking an online general education class at my local community college? And frankly, all of our credits transfer, so it does make economic sense to do something like that. But I've had a number of people ask the question. In fact, I've got family members in that situation. I have a grandson who's graduated high school this year, and we're talking about the same thing. Payday is Friday for May 1st. A lot of schools are putting that off another month, but a lot of parents will be making that decision May 1st.
Yeah, that's just such an awkward decision because I just think I wouldn't want my kid in a dormitory environment if there's going to be this pandemic bounce that they talk about in the fall.
That's obviously a concern. And even if we're able to open up in the fall, what if we have to transition like we did this semester to online again halfway through the semester? I mean, we don't know, obviously, for sure about any of this, but there's a lot of talk about a second wave and possibly even a third wave. And when it happens, we just don't know. And there's in a situation like this where there's so much uncertainty, it's very challenging for families to make the best decision for their child.
Yeah, I guess there'll be some people who take that gap year, students who take a gap year, perhaps don't go to school for a year. They'll have an asterisk forever for that year. I guess lots of students will have. And there will even be a learning gap where people will fall behind because they have missed some time in the classroom.
Well, I think about that and I hear that. And I think this is the worst time in history to take a gap year because, frankly, there's no jobs and you can't travel. So what do people typically do during gap year? They either travel or they work. Well, the people, once jobs become available, assuming they do, and hopefully they do, the first people who are going to get those jobs are people with skills who've had employment and have lost it. They're going to get the jobs first. So the recent high school graduates are unlikely to be at the front of the line for that. And again, travel, who's going to go anyplace right now? I mean, we're limited in terms of what we can do and how we can do it. I have a grandson graduating from college this year. I mentioned one high school. We have one graduate from college. And we've had lots of conversations. He talks to me quite often. And he's decided that he's going to pursue a master's degree because it's probably not the best time to go right out into the workforce. He's not going to get the best opportunity there. If he gets a job, that's great. He'll go part-time, but he's going to continue his education because it makes sense to get that now and get that out of the way as fast as he possibly can. So I think the gap year, I understand why people might want to do it, but I really think it's the worst time in history to ever do it. Because right now, you have nothing else there to fill your time. You might as well go to school.
Wor-Wic's well known in our community for two great programs. One is the Criminal Justice Academy, where they train the police officers, and the other is the nursing program. And I was really distressed to learn, and I probably should have written about it, and I didn't get there, that the nursing program ended up having to stop sort of in midstream this spring.
Yeah, well, it's nursing, it's radiologic technology, the people who take your x-rays, it's the occupational therapy, physical therapy, EMT paramedics. We had to get moved out of the clinical sites for obvious reasons, and that's a real challenge. Fortunately, over the last few weeks, and things change on a daily basis, but over the last few weeks, the accrediting agencies for the different disciplines in allied health and nursing have come forward and said, we can make this work in these disciplines if you can do X, Y, and Z. And we've pretty much been able to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm feeling pretty confident that most of our students in the nursing and allied health programs will be able to complete. We've got a couple of students in occupational therapy I'm still worried about. And we've got a final project for our EMT paramedic students that have to be fulfilled. But other than that, it's starting to look as though it's going to work out for our students. That's for the graduates. First year students transitioning to second year, we're not in as good a position for them. So we're going to have to extend the semesters and maybe delay things, delay starts to get them back on track. So we're trying to deal with the group that's going to graduate because frankly, we need them in the workforce today as soon as possible. And then with next year's class, we don't want them to lose a year. So we're going to do everything we possibly can to get them positioned to complete their education and catch up.
Yeah, there was talk nationally that people who were in medical school who were due to graduate were able to go ahead and leave early and get out there in the workforce and help. But it wasn't the same situation with the nurses. They weren't at the end of their training the way they needed to be.
Right. And some of the nursing programs, the 4-year RN programs, the BSN, they've done all of their clinical work. They do it with our students essentially the same period of time. So our students, when they transition to a BSN program, are already RNs. At the 4-year institution, they've completed their clinicals and it made it a lot easier. So some of the nursing schools are able to graduate, the 4-year nursing schools are able to graduate early as well.
I know you talk about this and promote it a lot, but I'm still stunned that so many people don't know that you can graduate from Wor-Wic and go into any of the University System of Maryland colleges immediately, directly as a junior.
Right. It's been the case in Maryland forever. We have a direct transfer program from the Maryland Community Colleges. You're guaranteed admission to any of the University System of Maryland institutions. And for those students who can't even access it when they graduate from high school, we're the pathway for many of them. So it's a tremendous opportunity for them. Our programs are articulated. We're the principal feeder school to Salisbury University. We send more students there than any place else. It's proximity, certainly, but it's a great partnership that we have. But our students also go to Towson, UMBC, College Park, you name it, across the board. And it's, again, all of our credits are going to transfer to those institutions and the privates and everybody else. So back to a point you made earlier, this is an opportunity if what they were thinking about, if their original plans aren't going to pan out, they still have an opportunity to keep track, keep online, and work toward their education and do it remotely at the college. Or even we might have some face-to-face, we might have some hybrid instruction. We'll see as it gets closer, but they'll have those opportunities.
And I think another one of the little known things is that your students, once they get to the bigger schools, perform better than just about anyone. So the university system wants your students to come there.
Yeah, our community college graduates who transfer onto a four-year school are very successful. In fact, they do better than the native students who started at the four-year institutions. So they have a track record, they have proven success, and they know that they're going to complete their programs when they transfer. So it's great for the four-year schools, and certainly it's a great pathway in good times or bad times.
Tell us about the Promise program. I know it started here, there's a little controversy, but then right after that, the state adopted it.
The state did adopt it. It's a wonderful thing because the way the Maryland Promise program exists today is that if you graduate from high school with a 2.3 grade point average and go to college within 2 years after you graduate, I'm going to get back to that in a second, but go to college within 2 years after you graduate, family income is two-parent family under 150,000 up to 150,000 a year, single parent family 100,000 a year. You essentially go tuition fee free. So that is a tremendous opportunity for all of our local graduates. You come to us for 2 years and then you transfer on to a four-year school. You didn't have that big outlay during your first couple of years, and it makes the four-year degree much more affordable. Great program. Now, the reason I said I'm going to come back to something, the legislature passed a bill. The governor hasn't signed any bills or many bills yet because he's focused on the pandemic, and God bless him for that. He's doing a tremendous job, in my judgment, dealing with that for the state of Maryland. But the bill's been passed by the legislature to open this up, and it's not just for people who graduated within the last 2 years. It can be any Maryland public high school graduate anytime. You have to attend college full-time, have that 2.3, but even if you didn't have the 2.3, if you go to college, earn a 2.5, you then can qualify for it and come back and continue for your last year. You have 3 years to make two. So it's full-time attendance, but you have 3 years to make your 2-year degree.
That's really cool.
Great.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like a no-brainer. It just seems like to me.
It seems that way to me as well.
Yeah. You're a local leader. You have hundreds of people watching every decision you make, and they're making their own judgments about, what they would do if they were in your position. And you mentioned the governor. Can you imagine the pressure on him? How do you say he's doing pretty well?
In my judgment, yeah. I mean, we've been able to watch our governor and take direction from him. We know which way we're going. Nobody knows. We're in very uncertain times, and nobody has the answers. But he's given us great guidance. But he also has given us the opportunity to make our own determination about a number of issues. Some things, obviously, he's taken out of our hands, and said, you're going to shut down, and here's where we're going with this. But figure out how you can operate, and we did. So I think he's doing a great job. I believe that everybody is trying to do what they can within the focus of maintaining the best situation for the health and well-being of, in our case, students and employees. In other cases, employees. Everybody's doing everything they possibly can. We might make mistakes. We probably will, but we've never been down this road before. And hopefully we're doing things. As long as you're making decisions for the right reason, you shouldn't be faulted for it. Hopefully you get the best information possible and you try to do the best you possibly can.
Yeah, I'm impressed that there's not so much cynicism about his decisions, that people really seem to be embracing and wanting to follow along.
Well, everybody wants to get back to work. Everybody wants the economy to roll, but we also know that it's not the best time for everybody to be out shaking hands and face-to-facing with each other because the burden that we would put on the healthcare system is so much so that the economy will just blow up anyway.
You mentioned healthcare, and you're the former chairman of the board of trustees at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. When you were in that group, involved in that, did you guys ever imagine a situation like this?
No. Obviously, we talked about pandemics. In fact, we had the bird flu, the avian flu during that period of time, MRSA, SARS. I was on the board for 13 years. So we dealt with some of these things, but I don't think anybody contemplated it being anything like this. So yes, you have lots of plans. In fact, at the college, we had a pre-pandemic plan with 3 stages, and every department had a pre-pandemic plan. And we pulled that out and we followed it to a T. And then we have a continuity of operations plan. The hospital is in the same position. They have all these plans, but as Winston Churchill and Dwight Eisenhower have been attributed this saying, plans are worthless, but planning's essential. And we've all gone through this planning process, but once you get into the reality of the situation, what you planned for isn't really there, but having gone through that planning process helps you be more prepared for what you're dealing with. So I get what they were saying, but until you're dealing with it, you don't really understand.
As we record this is supposed to be the peak week at the hospital in terms of the COVID cases.
It is, and they've just been doing an incredible job. Steve Leonard came in and has taken over, and I just have all the absolute respect for everything that they're doing to safeguard our community. They're doing a tremendous job, and God bless every one of them who's taking care of all of us in our community. It's just been tremendous.
So in all your training, did you ever imagine a situation like this?
In all my training, I could imagine retiring at a time just before this.
So been covering Wor-Wic for years, and I know there was a new building going to be in your future, like over the horizon, but that horizon's here. It's time for your new applied technology building?
That's correct. Yeah, the applied technology building, it's a 3-year process from design through completion of construction. And it could get derailed by this process. I saw you were talking to Dr. Donna Hanlon the other day about some of the construction projects with the public schools and, the concern of the funding and the county contribution and ability to get that right now. And we're in the same position in the sense that the county funding has to be there for us to access the state dollars as well. So if the county can't ante up their share of the funds, the design that's supposed to start July 1st won't happen. Now that's also relying on the state being able to come through with their share of this as well. But this new Applied Technology Center will be an amazing facility for our community, for a lot of potential jobs in our community. It's a training, makerspace, just a tremendous opportunity. And hopefully we don't get missed, but you know what? We've got to do what's going to work best for everybody in this period of time.
What careers do you see developing on the shore that you all are preparing to help teach?
Well, with our proximity to Wallops, there's always an opportunity to piggyback on what's happening there. We've got the drone technology that's expanding there. We think that there's an opportunity with that. If the wind power off of the coast of Ocean City comes through, if that process comes to fruition, we'll be training lots of people in those industries as well with the turbines. And with the pandemic impact and what we're seeing with the United States having to rely on manufacturing from overseas, we see an opportunity for a lot of that manufacturing to come back to the U.S. and enhance opportunities here for new manufacturing industries, things that we've offshored to bring back to the United States. So that industry could develop and could strengthen in our community.
I know you were kind of a proponent of the Kerwin Commission recommendations. Are they going to go anywhere now?
That's a great question. The governor hasn't signed the bill yet, but realize that Kerwin has been funded, assuming that the budget gets, assuming they can continue with the budget, Kerwin has been funded for the next 2 years anyway. The bill was actually going to favor things that took place thereafter. So we'll see what happens in this climate. Frankly, I don't think there's going to be enough money there for a number of initiatives going forward, but the bill could still pass, and that won't happen for a few years anyway.
But overall, you do like the program?
Well, anything that's going to improve education is a good thing. There are some things in there that I would have liked to have seen done differently, but there's a lot of things in there that I think is going to have a profound impact on the improvement of education in our region. One of the big things is the career and technical education, return to that and strengthening that. And another thing is college and career readiness by the end of 10th grade, where more and more students will be accessing higher education after the end of their 10th grade to continue to get focused and move forward.
I did detect people who didn't really understand Kerwin Commission recommendations. You all hosted a forum that included Dr. Kerwin, and the feedback I got was that a lot of people learned a lot from that forum that was held at Wor-Wic.
Well, Britt's an incredible speaker, and he really did a great job of laying it all out and explaining what it is. Most people are just afraid because it's a lot of money, and I understand that completely. But if you look at the 5 different areas that the focal point of this particular piece of legislation, which runs the gamut from preschool through career and technical education, improving the teaching profession, assessing all those things, and having students college and career ready by the end of 10th grade. Those are all things that are very important for our community, and also making sure that we're making appropriate expenditures on education for economically disadvantaged and special needs students. That's really what the Kerwin Commission is all about, improving our education and improving the outcomes for a stronger society in our state. So you can't hate what it's trying to do. It's a big dollar ticket item, but we'll see where it goes, and hopefully we can continue to improve education in the state of Maryland.
Dr. Hoy, thanks for letting us come into your house and answer some questions about our confusion about what's going to happen going forward. Thank you.
I wish I had some answers, but we're trying to do everything we possibly can. I really appreciate the opportunity, Greg. Great to see you.
Thank you. He's Dr. Ray Hoy, the president of Wor-Wic Community College, and we're just thrilled that he was with us here today. Thanks so much. I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, another edition of One-on-One done remotely here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.